Well, this afternoon, Sanitation Minister Cecilia Dapa is facing criticism for her new proposals to facilitate the deployment of senior high school leavers as sanitation guards to help in the enforcement of sanitation laws. The deployment is due to take effect by July in assemblies across the country to maintain cleanliness in our cities and towns. That decision was announced at a news conference yesterday. The Environmental Health Officers Alliance Ghana is unhappy about this proposal. Yao Akwalate is the interim national president. He joins me in the studio to find out why they have issues with that particular proposal. Ms. Akwa, so your group is the Environmental Health Officers Alliance, and you have somebody who is pushing to get us a good, clean environment. You are opposing that? Why?
Yes, thank you very much. Greetings to all environmental health officers in Ghana. Thank you for this opportunity. As the news earlier said, we are environmental health officers. We are the main people in charge of public health in Ghana. And if you look at the news item that came from the Honorable Minister, we are resistant in the point that environmental health officers have training schools in the country. You have 3 major training schools. One is in Kolebu, Accra, one is in Ho, one is in Tamale. 3 schools of hygiene, and it was established in 1925. That's the first health training school in Ghana by Kwame Nkrumah. It started in Ajabin. And if you look at the news item from Honorable Minister, she says she's going to deploy sanitation guards. And before one can become an environmental health officer, you must pass through a training. You must pass through a training, yes, from the schools of hygiene. And secondly, you must, if you look at this act, that's the Health
Professions Regulatory Bodies Act.
2013. Yes, it's from the Allied Health. You must have a personal identification number, that's a PIN, before you can practice as an environmental health officer. These SS school leavers don't have it. Secondly, we are also saying, if you look at the Public Health Act 2012, Section 3, that we want Ghanaians to take critical of it. Environmental health officers, we are the main public health prosecutors in Ghana. If you look at Section 3 of this act, it says stoppage of vehicles. If you permit me, I'll read.
Let's do that briefly.
All right. Section 3 of the Public Health Act 2012 Act 851, it says, I quote, a medical officer, a veterinary officer, an environmental health officer, a public officer, or any other person designated by a minister may, for the purpose of medical examination, A, stop a vehicle traveling in or suspected to be traveling in or traveling to or from an infected area, and B, detain any of the persons traveling or being conveyed in or on the vehicle. The 2, it says, quote, a person suffering or suspected to be suffering from a communicable disease or a corpse or an article suspected to be capable of spreading an infection may be removed from the vehicle and dealt with as prescribed by the regulations made by the minister.
Okay, so the point you're trying to make with that is environmental officers are the only ones mandated to, like you're saying, did you say arrest?
Yes, arrest.
Or stop people from
vehicles
contaminating the environment. Very well. So that point well made. Is there any other point you want to make on the to buttress the fact that you disagree with the use of senior high students to do this environmental work? Otherwise, we've seen the kind of filth, the amount of filth we have in the system. You don't think that we don't have enough of these professional health workers who certainly will be asking for salaries, or who have to be paid? I mean, of course, they can be employed as well, but there's nothing wrong with adding senior high school students to imbibe in them, you know, the spirit of cleanliness, to be responsible adults. How do you see that as a problem?
No, it won't work.
Why?
We have the training schools. Some 2014 graduates, 15 graduates, 16, 17, 18 are unposted. They've completed the 3 schools of hygiene. They are sitting at home. So why don't they push them to come and occupy the staffing now? in the district assembly.
So this is your proposal.
Sure.
You'd rather that the minister uses the those who have completed hygiene schools, the various hygiene schools in the country, to do this job rather than use senior high school. Have you reached out to the ministry with this brilliant proposal?
It is there.
Have you reached out to the ministry? It could be there,
yeah,
but that's why the president says we should be citizens and not spectators. So if you are being a citizen and you have this concern, have you reached out to the minister? I mean, you're an organization, a group. You can send this to the minister.
Yes, at the sanitation ministry, you know, for environmental health officers, let me give a brief about the school. The school is under the Ministry of Sanitation.
Okay.
The tutors who teaches at the school are under Ministry of Health. And we, the practicing officers, are under Ministry of Local Government. You see how it is.
So it's a bit check-it.
Check, yes. So when they complete school, when I completed school in 2007, we were under the Ministry of Health. At that time, the school were under the Ministry of Health. And we waited for some time before our staff IDs were converted into local government. Look at it. So we are proposing that from the school should be under Ministry of Health. If you look at the pillars
Ministry of Health or Ministry of Sanitation?
Ministry of Health.
Ministry of Health.
If you look at, because we were there before December 1994. We were transferred from the Ministry of Health to the Ministry of Local Government.
Okay.
So if you look at the pillars of health, it talks about preventive at first. You talk about curative, and it talks about rehabilitation. And preventive, you look at the environmental health officer, you look at the disease control, you look at the community mental health and co. Those are the people who are there. And we can't go out. So we are proposing, look at the sanitation in the country. It's a bigger challenge. And we, the environmental health officers, are working at the district assemblies. Number one is the political interferences. You are telling us to go and check the same ministry that is mandated or responsible for sanitation. It's impossible. So if you are out of the local government to health, that's where we were. Our structures are still there. We can check local government and sanitation proper.
Okay.
And secondly, we are not in uniform. Any law enforcement agent in Ghana here has a uniform. You talk about the police service, you talk about the military, it makes them visible. Anybody who is committing crime, who sees, or a driver driving who sees a police officer, knows, and then he's alert that something is wrong. Any armed robber who sees a military officer always is alert. We are not in uniform. Per the law that I quoted, the law is mandating us to stop and detain a vehicle. In this mufti, if I see a taxi carrying corpse, and if you look at it, if you look at the country, when somebody dies in the house, normally they use taxis, they use private cars, they use vans in conveying the dead bodies to the mortuary. This law, section 3, is mandating environmental health officers to stop such a vehicle, detain the people there, and then disinfect the vehicle. With this mufti, if I stand and flag out a taxi driver,
you think that nobody will even pay attention to it?
It will run you down. It will even tell you that you are an armed robber. It will run you down.
Okay. So far, this is what I get from your proposals. You want the environment officers to be moved from Ministry of Local Government to the Ministry of Health. You believe that once you're under Ministry of Health, you'll be able to help the Ministry of Health to check the work of the Ministry of Local Government and others as far as sanitation is concerned.
Exactly.
Also, you want uniforms for environmental officers. Yes. And most importantly, you want the Ministry of Sanitation to employ the graduates from the schools of hygiene across the country to do the sanitation guard jobs that they say they want to give to the senior high schools.
A point of correction, the sanitation ministry don't employ the officers. It is the local government service, which is under the Ministry of Local Government that employs. So the sanitation ministry trains the students, and then they are employed. After the completion of the allied health exams, they are being employed by the local government service under the Ministry of Health. So we are pleading.
Your final words, yeah.
Yes, we are pleading to the Minister of Local Government, for them and the local government service, to post all these people. Let me give a brief example somewhere.
This has to be your very final word because I've run out of time.
Sure. We are also pleading that when someone dies, normally they wait for the body to be decomposed before they report to the public. It's very, very, very not safe. Normally, you know, because of the Criminal Offences Act, the Criminal Code, when someone dies, you have to pass through a channel, and the police normally arrest such a person. So we are pleading that when someone dies, the public, through the chief or the assembly member, they should go and report to the police, for a safer action.
Okay.
And we also plead that the Minister of Local Government should post the 2014 to 2018 badges who are sitting at home. Okay. We need the staff.
How many of them? Do you know? Have an idea?
Yes,
how many?
There are about 1,000.
1,000.
There are 1,000. A year, the 3 schools of hygiene don't produce more than even 400.
Okay.
So if you look at the staffing, the training schools in the country compared to the nurses and the hygiene, we are lesser.
Okay.
So we don't see the reason why government cannot post them. We are praying that they should post them so that we can protect the public very well.
Yao Akwalate is president of Environmental Health Officers Alliance. That's a group of environmental officers, and they are calling for 3 key things: that the Ministry of Sanitation that trains environmental officers like them would work with the Ministry of Health, if you like, to employ the graduates of schools of hygiene in this country and use them as the environmental or sanitation guards rather than use senior high school students. They also want the Ministry of Health to be moved to the Ministry of Health, right? Environmental health. And they also want uniforms because that makes their work easier, gives them some legitimacy, and then it makes them responsible as well. Yao Akwalate, Ms. Alate, thank you very much for coming once again.